Hello everyone and welcome to Motorcast. Today I am Matty Bolton, of course, but I'm joined by Josh and I'm joined by our very special guest, Kev. Well, it's definitely been a upside down or a topsy-turvy rally in Sardinia, but we did see some good results from it. We also saw some pretty surprising results from it, but I think the main talking point is the fact that Tanak has managed to get his first win. And Josh, straight off the mark here, it's been a long time coming, hasn't it, for the young Estonian?
Yeah, there's certainly no beating around the bush of that fact, definitely. I mean, he's come very, very close before. We saw Poland last year. He really should have won that one, and that was a real kind of, bit of bad luck. And early in the season as well, coming into the final day against Neville, and of course kind of lost that head-to-head by the real kind of, narrowest margins. And, we've seen quite a few other kind of instances as well of really, really being close. But this time, he kind of, I don't think it was much in doubt, to be honest. I think once Padden had his incident and Tanak kind of grabbed the lead, I felt like that he was definitely going to, see it all the way through to the end. And, like you said, so deserved and a long time ago.
Yeah, it's important that you mentioned the Padden incident there, because it seemed for a while that it was going to be between Padden and Tanak for the lead, and Kev, it's another incident for Padden that's perhaps shadowing his season this year. He's had a bit of a poor run of results, and this really isn't what he really needed, is it?
Not at all. He's under pressure, and in Italy he had a prime chance to get that win, as he was the class of the field on the first day. Even though he didn't win any stages, he was just so consistent. And he looked like he was carrying that on in the second day until that instant, just going a little bit wide and somehow destroyed the rear end of his car. And it was pretty spectacular seeing him run to the end of the rally. But yeah, he had another crash on the last day as well, so his confidence probably taken a bit of a hit after that rally. But at least he's shown he's got the pace, and that's a bit encouraging heading into Poland and Finland, but he desperately does need a result.
The guy desperately needs some good luck, in my opinion. His pace is, well, during perhaps the first few rallies or the latest few rallies hasn't been there for a race-winning rally. It certainly was in Sardinia. I think it's a bit disappointing, really, because I think you obviously have to get to the end of a rally to win it. That's kind of a given. But his pace was obviously there, and I was kind of hoping that this would sort of kickstart his season a little bit. I mean, I think it's fair to say he's out of the championship hunt now by a considerable margin. But it still would have been good to see a rejuvenated Padden towards the end of this season. But obviously that did leave the door wide open for Tanak, and the other main talking point really was the amount of dust and gravel that was being kicked up, and the disadvantage it was causing for not only the lead driver but the drivers going through, the later drivers, since there just wasn't the wind to whip the dust away. And Josh, do you think that kind of leveled out the playing field a little bit?
In a certain way. I mean, I think it certainly helped the guys that were kind of running first on the road, but guys like Neville and Latvala, there was real kind of serious issues there with them. I mean, they were really losing it. Of course, both of them finishing second and third. We saw, of course, previously that Neville, of course, got time back on a previous rally, and I think that precedent was then set that you can claw back time if kind of unfortunate circumstances. So kind of that was a big talking point, I think, this weekend. A lot of drivers kind of angling for time to be kind of added back, and yeah, certainly really, really dangerous. I mean, hopefully they would look into something kind of extending the kind of gap between the cars, possibly at certain events where the gravel's kicked up, but it's so hard to predict really until you get those cars out there. So yeah, it was dangerous, but fortunately there were no major incidents, and I think if anything it actually kind of separated the field out a bit more, really, rather than kind of close it up.
Yeah, I think it's important that you mentioned that the field being separated out a little bit more, because it did mean that it was a bit unusual to see Neville perhaps so far down on the rally at the finish there. He did finish third, but was a full minute down on the rally winner Tanak. But we'll move on to Toyota, and obviously their front runner Matty Latvala. And Kev, it was a pretty good rally for Toyota, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. They actually kept up their form from like opening day of a gravel rally after showing it a bit in Mexico and Argentina. But yeah, fantastic from all three drivers as well. Hannon on the first day, especially, and that for probably actually even the star on the first day, because he really pushed that Toyota and managed to keep that gap pretty narrow at the front despite running second on the road. So yeah, that for Hannon was superb on the first day, and then Lappi came in from nowhere and grabbed 3 stage wins and was the earliest with that, and in the end he got 6 stage wins including the power stage. So yeah, all 3 drivers were superb this rally, and for Toyota as well, keeping that pace up over the whole rally. Yeah, they still had a few issues with their car, like electrical issues for Latvia and for Hannon with the cooling as well, after having another incident at the end of the first day, and for Latvia as well, having losing second gear on the second stage but still winning stages later that leg. So yeah, there's still issues for Toyota, but I think the pace they showed is very encouraging for the rest of the year.
I think it's especially encouraging considering the fact they were struggling at the beginning of this year on the gravel rallies. So the fact that they've managed to get their pace sorted we're in the second half of the season now, but to get it sorted before, let's say, Finland is kind of massive, because it means that they're now in for possibly a win at what is their home event. So we'll move on from them. We've obviously got Neville in third, and we talked a little bit about Padden before. Some solid points for Neville there, and Josh, do you think... obviously Neville was visibly disappointed with some of his results, but do you think he was perhaps a little bit too hard on himself?
I mean, I think he was kind of angry with, not just his own pace, but I guess kind of the dust and the kind of, unluckiness. But I think when Ogier finishes in 5th, you have to claim back a lot more points than what Neville did. I mean, obviously, hampered by road position, on the opening day due to his kind of, due to his championship position. But, there's only 6 rallies left, and that, fight, I think, is just going to get more and more intense between Neville and Ogier. I still think it is between those two. I think Tanak and Latvala will continue to get the really, really good results, and Tanak's not too far behind now, of course, after that win. But I still think it's a real 2-horse race. 6 rallies. Ogier, is going to be a lot stronger at places, like Spain on the tarmac, I think. Once that kind of road position doesn't play such a bigger role, I think we're really going to get a massive kind of Ogier versus Neville fight for the rally wins. But certainly for kind of Poland and Finland, I'd definitely say you're looking more at kind of the guys a bit lower down the road order. I think Ogier and Neville, for them, it's very much a battle of who can get onto the podium and who can just outbest each other. And this weekend, Neville, of course, managed to do that. Ogier, incredibly, failing to win a stage, which is it's certainly been a while since that happened.
Yeah, that was something that we were discussing just before the podcast started. Was we couldn't quite put a finger on when the last rally was where Ogier didn't score a stage win. So if any of you can let us know, I'll certainly be looking at the stats after this. But it's really it's really kind of uncharacteristic. But I guess like we've been talking about, the dust and the fact that there was so much of the road needed to be cleared, really kind of hampered Ogier at the start, and having the compromise of being the first runner out really didn't help him. But a considerably it's a good result in context, I believe, for Ogier. But still losing valuable points in the championship isn't ideal. We'll move on to our next guy, who Matt Otsberg, having a decent rally there, and Kev, some solid points for the Norwegian there, having a very good run at it in Sardinia.
Yeah, once again showing he's very good on the gravel, and on the first day he was superb. Once again, like lots of drivers out there struggling with the tyres, how to balance it between pushing and conserving the tyres on this very tricky surface in Italy. But he did that superbly on the first day, despite being the only guy running soft tyres in the afternoon as well, still keeping the pace up and keeping the tyres going until the end of the day. And then unfortunately on the second day, he suffered that puncture, got in the way of Latvia, he was furious, and that really did dent his chance of making drop down the order on that second day. But once again, shown on that first day, he's got the pace. He just needs a whole rally where he doesn't have an issue, then he can probably get top 5s, perhaps even fighting for podiums later in the season.
Yeah, I mean, Latvala actually threatened to quit the sport after that Augsburg kind of incident, and the kind of radio communication wasn't there for either driver. So, bit of a heat of the moment reaction, but yeah, certainly I think one for the kind of organisers to look into.
I think it does bring up the question again of perhaps elongating the times between the drivers setting off, particularly on the stages where it's a bit gravel. Well, very dusty in the case as it was over the weekend.
Yeah, no doubt when you have no wind as well, like in Italy, and it's just hanging in the air. You saw so many drivers, even in the junior WRC, suffering from, drivers in front suffering punctures and then kicking up the dust and it just hanging in the air. So, yeah, definitely something to look at for, the organisers in the future.
Yeah, well, I think later on, for the WRC guys it's 3 minutes, I believe. But then I think for the guys lower down, it's just 1 minute, basically. Someone sets off and then a minute later the next guy's off, so... Yeah, like I said, even a problem for those guys a bit lower down.
I assume it's just time constraints, though. They've got
logistics and that. Yeah, but
yeah. So I guess it's an unfortunate problem, and I know we all want to see racing, but in the interest of safety, perhaps they could have cancelled a stage or something, just so we could get through the order with all the drivers feeling as if they've got a safe route to traverse through. Next up is he's kind of our wild card, and the man who we've been saying should have been in the WRC seat from the very start. It's our very own Andreas Mikkelsen, and having his first outing in Citroën. And Josh, considering Citroën's weekend, that the 8th position he scored seems pretty good.
Yeah, I still say it's disappointing though.
Certainly,
from what the expectations were before, I think. With a really good road position, many expected him to kind of be in the top 3 on Friday. But I think, as we were discussing before the show, I think that says a lot more about the Citroën than it does about Andreas Mikkelsen, because he's had, of course, a really, really good build up to 2017. Of course, was dumped at the start of the year. He's done a couple of WRC2 events. Won that kind of last rally of 2016 in a head-to-head fight with Ogier, and it's great to see him back. Hopefully, I think what should be full-time now in the WRC, it looks like he's got that Citroën, hopefully to the end of the year. Of course, Meek has been dumped for Poland, and Mikkelsen has been moved up into that kind of lead driver position. So, obviously, I think Citroën were really, really impressed with the feedback Mikkelsen gave. I mean, he's driven 2 of the other cars as well. He's driven the, of course, VW that was never raced, and the Hyundai as well, of course. I think he did the kind of test for that in Portugal. So he's got good experience of those other cars, and of course, I think, he did a solid job. He got to the end of the rally, which is important, had quite a few issues, had a puncture and a number of other kind of incidents as well. So it was, he got to the end and got some points, of course, which was more than can be, more that can be said than the likes of Breen and Meek.
Yeah, I mean, we've been kind of questioning the Citroën all season, but it seems certainly after this event that we had Breen go out for the man who is possibly the most consistent runner in the WRC didn't manage to finish the rally. I think that says a lot more, like Josh said, about the Citroën than it does about the drivers, although we did once again see Chris Meek go out very early on, and I mean, Kev, we know he's been replaced for Poland, but it's certainly been another disappointing rally for the two British men here.
Yeah, I've got my head in my hands. It's just seen Meek every rally just seems to make a mistake. This one is, wasn't as such a bad mistake. He just got slightly wide and he managed to get the back end into the bank, and he went flipping for days. So it's just so disappointing for me where he had the road position this time. He was actually taking advantage of it, and he said, in an interview afterwards, he wasn't trying to push hard. He was just trying to keep, the car going. He's settled. He felt okay, but once again, he just made a tiny mistake, and he was seen with these 2017 cars where a tiny mistake can turn into a huge accident, and we've seen that most of all with Meek, unfortunately, this season. But for Breen as well, after jumper sort of landing on a rock, and that broke his gearbox, and then he had to retire as well on the first day. So maybe it's a bit about what we were discussing before the show as well, about the Citroën being slightly weak as well, compared to like Hyundai with Padden driving it with 3 wheels, like you don't like with abandon, compared to Mika, who's really or Breen, who's kind of struggling with their cars after like a tap or a slight hit with a rock. So yeah, very disappointing for the Brits, but for Breen, he's got a chance to bounce back immediately, and for Meek, he's got almost 2 months to sink on this, and hopefully rebuild his confidence before maybe returning in Finland.
I think what we're possibly going to see is a Meek come back to Finland with possibly a completely different persona and perhaps a different driving style, which is possibly required for the Citroen, because it does look like a difficult car to drive. And like you said, we were speaking before about before the podcast about this, and just one of the points that I was making is that the car seems to have the pace, but you have to drive in a very specific way to get the car to the top, and it's unfortunately resulted in a lot of accidents for the Citroens, which I think we certainly don't want to see Citroen crash now at every single rally. We want to see them fighting for the lead and making this a really competitive season, but they arguably need to come back after the summer break, perhaps after Poland, with some upgrades to make the car more drivable. But they're still in contention for race wins. But I mean, Josh, the possibility of a drivers' championship is completely out the window now, and constructors too. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I think it was gone quite a while ago, but certainly any kind of outside hope is gone. I mean, sure, they'll definitely, I'd say, win one of the remaining 6 rallies at least. But it's not going to be any kind of consistent run, and like you say, there's probably no quick fix really. I mean, obviously an update after the summer break would be ideal, but for me now it's kind of all about next year really, and kind of planning A, the car, and then B, your driver lineup really, because they've got kind of 4 drivers now on their books, and really probably need to commit with 3 of them. Who kind of gets shuffled out of that pack? Well, you've got to say it's got to be Lefebvre at the moment, really, but kind of get shuffles down. Maybe, put him in WRC 2, is that the right move, or put him in kind of a year-old Citroen? It is a real kind of pickle for them, but I think, most of all, it's the car they have to sort, and then I guess the drivers will kind of fall into place afterwards. But I think they've done a good job signing Mikkelsen, because his feedback apparently was very, very good, so yeah.
What else could you expect from the guy?
Yeah, there's hope for the future at least.
I think there's the possibility that Citroen may come back with a junior team like they did. Well, what was it? Certainly back back when they had Kimi Räikkönen on their books. So
and they had OJ there as well when he was coming up.
So back then they had 4 drivers, and if they have the funds available to be repairing 4 cars every single weekend from terminal accidents, well that's yet to see, but I assume that they'll probably go with 3 drivers like Josh said, and I do agree that it will be Lefebvre, who at the moment at least is probably the most likely to not be let go, but have a season away. Just a few more runners and riders to go through now. Of course, we had Danny Sordo having a bit of a tough rally, and also Elfyn Evans, who went out fairly early on. And Josh, obviously we saw Elfyn Evans get very close earlier on in the season to a first rally win, and but I was perhaps looking at this rally, seeing it as a one that he could perhaps get up near the podium. Do you think it's disappointing for him? Because I think or do you think he can also get a rally win in one of the remaining rallies?
Evans definitely has potential. Sordo could, win Spain. I think
yes.
That's the kind of clear Sordo rally there. Obviously, I think Sordo was very, very unlucky. He had multiple turbo issues, and then that basically put him out of the rally. He came back and won multiple stages. So the pace, I think, was really there this weekend for Sordo. I think once it kind of goes right for him, and once it goes right for Evans, both of them really, really could be up there, especially Evans, I think, once that kind of, DMAC rubber gets going. But we haven't quite seen the pace delivered what we thought we would over these past couple of rallies for Evans. Hasn't quite really worked out exactly how we were expecting after Argentina. In fact, this whole season really has been under-delivering. I'm not really talking about Evans, because that would be quite harsh. I think he's done quite a good job. But it might just be that DMAC rubber really, which is not the most reliable. We've seen quite a few punctures early on, and then of course he hit a tree on Friday, so maybe this one was kind of his fault. But yes, basically it was kind of a microcosm of his whole season, really. A little bit disappointing, but still quite a bit of pace shown, and I guess a bit same with Sordo as well. I mean, he's usually pretty consistent, but of course, couldn't really help it with those mechanical issues in his first non-points finish of the season. So that's disappointing for him, but of course he did make up for it on the power stage, getting 4 points. So yeah, not all bad. So actually, yeah, he did score points, so he keeps up his record, which is good. And good for Sordo as well to kind of show that pace at the end, just like Lappy, of course. And I have to say, for me, Lappy, definitely the driver of the weekend. Fantastic to get fourth and the power stage win as well in your second ever rally is just exceptional.
I guess I'll throw the same question over to you, Kev, and who was your driver of the weekend?
I think I have to agree with Josh with Lappy in his second ever main event with Toyota, winning the power stage and finishing fourth, despite the issues on the first day, and just superb pace throughout the whole of the rally. And yeah, him also Latvia, without that incident with Osberg, he perhaps could have even been fighting with Tanak right at the end. He was very close on the final day, but just didn't have enough to take the fight to the M Sport man. So yeah, definitely going to the Toyota guys for stars of the rally.
I think I have to agree with you there. For me, it's really a toss-up between Lappy, who's really shown incredible maturity and incredible pace for what is only his second rally. But I think it's difficult to avoid Ott Tanak just simply because it's his first ever rally win, and he's gotten so close. I think part of me is probably more relieved for him than anything else, and happy just to see him finally get that long overdue win. Well, I guess we'll move on to the predictions now. I'll come to you first, Kev. If you want to go with a rally winner and any podium goers, if you would please.
Rally winner. Oh, there's like 4 or 5 guys I could point out immediately. Tanak, Latvia, if the Toyota performs well again. Neuville, OJ. Maybe road position could count out again in Poland, but you can never really count him out. And then you've got Padden as well. He showed the pace in Italy, but very different gravel rally in Poland. Very fast like Finland. I would like Padden to win, but I think I'll go for like Neuville or Tanak to perhaps back up and actually get that Poland win that he so deserved last year.
But I think I'll have to agree with Kev and go Neuville for the rally win. I think Evans would have been if this was straight after Argentina. Actually, I did make a prediction for Portugal that Evans was going to win, and obviously that didn't come to fruition. I think you could see him in and about the podium if he manages to get to the end. But I think the problem with him is he's a bit inconsistent. Perhaps that's down to the DMAC, but like you said last year, the DMACs did seem to work quite well. So yeah, I'm going to go through with it. I'm going to go with Evans on the podium, probably third, and in second, I think Ogier. But I think it's pretty much all over the place. I think I'd like to see Lappy on the podium too, and I think both of you would agree with that as well. But that's it. That's it for this review. Next time out, we will be reviewing Poland, and it's not long now. In rallying terms, it's a very short gap between these two rallies. And is it Thursday or Friday when it starts? We'll go with Thursday, and if we're wrong, well then we're wrong. Thank you for watching us. Obviously, you can follow all of us on Twitter. You've got Motorcast, you've got me, you've got Josh, and you've got Kev. And that's us for this week, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.